Hello loves, hope you're having a good week. It's the last Tuesday in January if you're watching this live or listening to this live. Either way, we've made it to the end of January. We've made it through the first month of 2024. So congrats to us. I know January is usually a pretty miserable month. I've got to be honest, for me it's gone quite fast. Not like all those memes of people saying I'm on day 464 of January. That is usually me. I remember last year feeling like the longest month of my life, or maybe the year before, I can't remember. This year, I'm not gonna lie, it's gone a little bit fast, and equally I feel scared at that. I hate it when time goes by really quickly. It does really scare me. I've actually anxiety reared its ugly head for me this last week, and I don't know if it was because it was coming to the end of the month. I don't know. Generally, time passing fast does make me quite anxious, so maybe that had something to do with it. I've only realised now I've said it out loud. Anyway, who knows? We're not going to go down that route. I will let you in on something positive though. I've completed my first month of my New Year's resolution, and I have gone out multiple times and not got white girl wasted. And that is something I'm really proud of, because let me tell you, I tried last year my damned hardest to not get white girl wasted at situations, and for some reason the white girl in me just kept getting wasted, and it was something I really could not get out of, and I hated myself for it. Well, your gal's done a full month now, and obviously that's not a month of back-to-back nights out, but I have done nights out and not got steaming. So I'm proud of myself. Let me know how your New Year's resolutions are going on, obviously. What ones you're doing, have you stuck to them? If you haven't, it's okay. It's January, but not for much longer. Anyway, congratulations to us all for making it through the first month of 2024. I hope it's been a good one, guys. Also, oh my God, I haven't spoken about this for the entire however long it's been on, because that's not what the podcast is about. However, I have managed to find a way to loop it into this podcast, and I'm happy about it. Last week also marked the end of the Traitors. Guys, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you the Traitors was my obsession, and I think the only thing that single-handedly carried me through January, I suppose, in any dark times, it has been my solace, my comfort, my best friend, my shoulder to cry on, my escapism, my comfort blanket. I have been beyond obsessed with it. Now, I loved last series. This series went to another level. If you haven't watched it, firstly, I'm assuming that everybody listening has watched it. If you haven't, please go and watch it immediately. I beg you, you will not be let down. It's one of the best things. It's easily the best television I've ever watched, easily. It's like a cinematic masterpiece. It's chef's kiss outstanding. And the finale, whew, it did not disappoint. I will never forget the way it made me feel. The emotions that I felt watching The Traitors was just something I didn't think was capable from watching a British reality TV show. Outstanding scenes. I've got a spoiler to come though. So if you haven't watched it yet, skip past, I don't know how long I'm going to be talking, 20 seconds or something. The end vote, right? Jazz, Molly, Harry left. The three of them left. Harry is the traitor. Jazz and Molly are faithfuls. Can't be asked going to the rules for you. You're going to have to Google it for me, right? If you don't know. Anyway, Jazz pretty much says Harry is a traitor. Jazz was like Jazz Christie, our absolute king, the whole way through. Knew exactly who the traitors were, but didn't have enough friendships in there for anyone to believe him or back him, right? Towards the end, I won't even go into why. Jazz knows that Harry is a traitor. He just knows it. Well, I will tell you why. Andrew, the other traitor, basically dogged him out at the last minute. So Jazz is like, Harry has to be a traitor, yeah? Molly, sorry, so I don't know if you've watched it or not, but basically you have to go around, three of them, and choose to banish somebody, right? So the natural thing to do would be for Jazz and Molly to banish Harry, who is a traitor, and then Jazz and Molly could share the money, right? No. what did our sweet Molly do? So Molly is a young girl, Harry's a young guy. They became absolute besties in the Traitors. They both got partners, or at least he did when he was in. I know she's got a boyfriend now. I don't know the statistics, logistics, whatever. Anyway, they were buddies. They were besties. And she just trusted him 100% because she thought he was a good guy. And, oh God, as I was watching it, I was like, this is so classic man versus woman. They go at the end and Jazz is like, Harry is a traitor, yeah? Molly writes down on her board a H for Harry to banish him. And I'm like, oh my God, you're doing it. You're doing it. Oh my God, your gal is doing it. Well done. I'm clapping. I'm hurrahing. What does she do? Asks Ms. Claudia Winkleman, can she change her? And it just made me realise that women generally act on their emotions and not logic. And honestly, I'm sick of it. This is something we all knew. We always get told this. We always get told women are emotional and we deal with things emotionally and men just deal with it logically. But when I saw that firsthand on the best piece of TV I've ever seen, it just really hit home for me. And I was like, we are fools. We are fools. It made me feel shit. As excited as I was for the TV. Afterwards, I was like, oh my God. She basically looked Harry in his eyes and said, it's not you, is it? And he said, no, it's not me. And because she loved him and she wanted to see the best in him, she did what we all do and overlook all logic and sense and just go with the feeling in our hearts and our guts. And that's the decision she made. And was it the right one? No. She lost out on almost 50 grand. So anyway, guys, I'm 8 minutes in. I'm literally talking about the Traitors, so I will have to stop myself. Otherwise, I'll be talking about it for 30 minutes. But when you're watching something, you're like, we've all bloody been there. And would it have been the same the other way round? No. Is it a coincidence that both winning Traitors were men last series and this series? No. My friend is desperate for me to go into it. Her words are, people, you're likeable and people will underestimate you. And some people, like, basically if they might think I'm stupid or they'll just underestimate me and how I can be a conniving bitch. So maybe I'll go in for the women. Let me tell you, that would be my challenge more than I'd want the money. I would be like, I want to do this to show that a woman can be a traitor and we can act logically. Because honestly, I was sick of it. Although, no tea, no hate, no shade to Molly. She's a young girl. She played with her heart. And obviously, there's a romantic in me that's like, you did what you had to do. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Got a couple of emails from you guys today. This one, the subject is help needed. So here we go. Hi Sadie, love your podcast. I listen every Tuesday without fail. Thank you. The stories are great, many of which I can relate to, which makes listening even more enjoyable. So I'm hoping for some advice or opinion, please. Okay. I always get so excited when I see the start of these emails. I broke up with my ex 2.5 years ago. It was a very difficult relationship in which it destroyed my character and faith in men. Whew, faith in men? Losing your faith in a man through another man, that's not good. Fast forward to now. I've met an amazing man. He's very affectionate, makes me smile and laugh constantly. I can honestly say I've fallen in love with an almost perfect man, and I finally feel like the old me again. For reference, we've been together just over 6 months. Okay, we love to see it. The problem is our sex life. To me, a new relationship is passionate. I want him to walk in and rip my clothes off. He kisses me like you would kiss your mum. And when I try and kiss more passionately, he pulls away after a few seconds. I'm not saying the sex isn't good, but it's mundane. He wants to do the same position every time. He's never gone down on me or even explored me with his fingers. She's put in brackets, sorry for the explicit detail. And it's fine, we go explicit here, no worries, no apology needed. I've tried talking to him about some of this, and he says he'll try to improve on the passionate kissing, etc., but doesn't. It's like we've skipped stages and moved to the comfortable long-term relationship phase of passionless affection and sex. I get the honeymoon period doesn't last forever, but I'd at least like it now in the early stages. I've had a horrible history with men and seem to pick the wrong ones. I've been cheated on, verbally abused and controlled, and it's made it really hard to trust men and open up to a new relationship. However, my partner makes me feel safe. He isn't my usual type in character and personality, and I do feel like I've broken the trend of going for the wrong type of man. I know it's only early days and there's a lot to learn about each other, but I really want this to work. I've never had a man show as much care for me. I have ongoing health issues which I've had to deal with alone until now. He comes to all my appointments with me and is constantly checking in on me throughout the day. I'm 42 this year and didn't think I'd ever meet anyone. I rarely go out, I'm busy with work, and I didn't know how I would meet someone. I had a lot of self-healing to do, and I spent time accepting who I am and loving myself before seeking a relationship. Well done, you. I feel like that's the type of thing that comes when you reach your 40s. Like, you can even feel it in your 30s, and I do think that's the type of thing that gets better and better and better. You get more self-aware and more passionate about yourself, I feel, and what's important to you. And you put up, you know what doesn't work, and then you know what you need to make things work in the future. Does that make sense? I just think for me, reading that, and she's 42, I think that's really nice. Okay, so she says, just over 6 months ago, I decided to try my luck at online dating. I filtered out the let's hook up for casual sex men and the random dick pics. And I'd been messaging a couple of men, but gravitated towards one and decided to meet up. All went well, and he is my now partner. We had a very intense, almost spiritual connection from the start, a lot of which I can't explain, but it was as if it was meant to be. We'd almost crossed paths on numerous occasions, but never met. That's like the invisible string theory. You know what I keep mentioning? Which somebody asked me, actually, I'm having a flashback to explain more about it. I'll come back to that. I was going to say remind me, as if somebody can talk back to me. It just feels like somebody can. Anyway, I'll come back to that. So we'd almost crossed paths on numerous occasions but never met. Strange thing is, if we had, then it's unlikely for professional reasons that we could have dated. I've never felt so relaxed with someone, and although it's only been a short time, I feel like I've known him my whole life. We just click, we have so much in common. He drives me and pushes me to believe in myself and has honestly boosted my confidence massively. I guess my question is, do I accept the lack of intimacy in the trade for having such an amazing, caring man? Is this normal in that he just doesn't have a high sex drive and need for passion like I do? Also, any suggestions on how to approach this again with him? I'm comfortable talking to him, but I've done it through humour because I'm just unsure on how to verbalise it, so he knows it affects me. Is it worthwhile asking if he was like this in previous relationships, which would address my concern if this is me? Help. Oh my God, this is so hard because I feel like this is the constant thing that people go through on various different scales where you've got to compromise. Everyone says in relationships you've got to compromise. And you basically have to decide what you're going to settle for, because there is never a perfect person out there that ticks every single one of your boxes. And my friend actually got this advice from a therapist, and the therapist told her you have to try and establish what's the most important things for you in a relationship, and you have to put those in your basically non-negotiables and the other things in what you can let go. And if sex or passionate sex is something that you really don't feel like you can live without, then you can't go on like that. Because if this is happening 6 months in, like 6 months into a relationship is so peak honeymoon. You would expect to be all over each other, so excited. Like, sex is such a novelty at the start again with somebody. It's so exciting. You're still learning what the other person likes, and you want to tell them what you like, and it can take 6 months before even crazy fantasies and fetishes can come out. You know what I mean? It's still, I think the first 6 months is when even like vanilla sex is exciting because it's with a new person, especially if you love each other as well and you've got all those emotions. So yeah, you're absolutely right for feeling like that. I feel like everyone would feel the same. Kissing like my mother, I didn't even kiss my mother on the lips, and I am affectionate with Adele. Was my mother. not to be confused with the singer. And I don't even, I mean, we have kissed on the lips a couple of times, but generally you just like kiss on the cheek. So tell me he's not kissing you on the cheek, please, because that I can't deal with. If my man is kissing me on the forehead or the cheek, that's not okay with me. I'm sorry, and I don't think that is right 6 months in, unless there's a reason for it. You know, he might be a very, very gentle soul and he knows how you've been treated before and he wants to be kind to you, and these are the things we have to consider. And I'm never one to believe that if somebody doesn't do something right, you leave them. Like, I think that's a load of rubbish, and I think it's a really immature way to be. So I think if you've met somebody special, you've got to try and make it work, and you've got to have a conversation about it. Like, talking is key. I've notoriously been really bad at it in relationships, and all my relationships, like with friends and stuff even. It's something I'm really trying to work on to get better, because you've got to talk stuff through. So definitely talk to him. But I do think the biggest red flag for me always, and I always say this, is somebody that doesn't, or a guy, or a girl, no, I think a guy is my biggest issue, if they don't go down on you. Now, if he's not expecting a BJ in return, then I can deal with it a little bit better. Okay, you were not into it, well, you weren't receiving, that's okay. But if he's expecting and wanting it too, and he's going all DJ Khaled, saying, I don't go down on a woman, men shouldn't go down on women, and I know different cultures and different communities do have issues with it, but for me, that's a non-negotiable. That is a non-negotiable, because it's also, apart from just like the actual physicality of it, I don't want to go into this too much detail, like so many, like my family listen, you know, but apart from like the, you know, just the idea of it, also it's like, I think, not to be all soppy when you think of sex, but when you're in a relationship with somebody and you love them, you want to do stuff that they enjoy and they do it back to you, and I just think that's part of it. So that's a big red flag for me. And I mean, the finger thing, honestly, I can't even understand that. That to me just doesn't sound enjoyable. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't sound enjoyable. And you've got to ask yourself, if nothing changed after this conversation with him, you know, he could give you a really good reason, and you could be really understanding, and that's definitely what you should do, is talk to him. But you've got to ask yourself, ultimately, if nothing changes, can I live my life like this? And I think what you've got to remember is, obviously you do have a spiritual connection, and I think when none of us are stupid, we all can feel it when we meet somebody and you're like, oh shit, this is special. But from my experience, right, this is just my take on it, if it was me, right? Because generally throughout my life, I've been treated well by guys. Now, I have had some dicks, personalities, not actual dicks, or both, whatever, however you want to look at it, right? Obviously, I've had guys that have done dickish things to me, obviously. But generally, overall, like, you know, the stuff that she said she's been through, no, I haven't been through that. Like, people be abused and all the rest of it, right? So generally, I would say I've been quite lucky wherever. So for me, if I was with somebody and he did all the things that you've just listed, like, was nice to me, boosted my confidence, you know, all these things, but the sex was really not there for me, it probably wouldn't be enough for me to stay, because that to me is like a connection thing as well. And I think you can feel it, or at least I can feel it if I see somebody, if there's like a connection there or not. But for me, because I've had that nice stuff before, I probably do take it for granted. I'm well aware that I could be with somebody that, you know, doesn't do that. So I probably take it for granted a bit. But my point is that wouldn't be enough for me to stay, because I'd be looking for something that, yeah, I might be able to drop a couple of things. Okay, this guy doesn't buy me flowers every week. This guy doesn't, I don't know, fill my car up with petrol every week. But the connection is better. So I would do that because the baseline is good. But I think, I don't know if I'm right here, let me know. But I think if you've been treated badly by people repeatedly in your life, sometimes you can meet somebody that's really good for you and automatically think, which is completely normal, that like, these are the ones, because this is the one, like, he's the first person to do this for me, and therefore I must stay with him. But you haven't got to stay with him. Like, basically, you meet these good people when you're in a good place yourself. Like you said, you've done all the work, and that's where you've attracted somebody good. And leaving somebody like this doesn't automatically mean you're going to go back to somebody bad. As long as you're still doing the work for yourself and you wouldn't take any shit from somebody, then you're not going to get in a situation like you did before, because you're a different person, and this person teaches you that now. Like, he's taught you now that you deserve somebody good. So you can get both. You might not get somebody that is as thoughtful as him in some ways, but you can definitely get like a very thoughtful person and a person that you connect with in the bedroom. So I always think we mustn't settle. But I think ultimately, like, you will know. I always believe that sometimes you can ask yourself something and you kind of know the answer. There's like something deep down. I know it sounds like silly, but I just think you do know. Like, that's why people, break up with people and leave marriages when they've got kids with a person, and you think, God, that's such a massive decision to do that. And people still do it because they just know inside that something isn't right. It's like why you quit a job. And, people change their careers and they're like, but this job is so good for you and you get paid this amount. And they're like, something just wasn't right. So, yeah, I think ultimately But it is confusing on the internet as well, I think, with stuff you see about the bare minimum. And I think you have to remember that one person's non-negotiable and bare minimum is completely different to another person. So I could be with somebody now, a friend, and they could say, my boyfriend buys me flowers every single week. And I'm thinking, oh God, well, mine doesn't. But then their boyfriend might kick up a fuss every time they go on a night out. They might go to bed every night without saying I love you. And that for me is a big thing. So I might be with somebody that buys me flowers on my birthday or just for Christmas. But he also tells me he loves me and brings me food or goes and picks up my parcels for me, like other little things. So you've got to remember there's a baseline. Like, the sex thing for me would be a non-negotiable, but you've got to look at what's, a non-negotiable for you. I do think when you talk with somebody, it could be an amazing thing. You could talk to him and you could say, oh, well, actually, I didn't think you'd want this type of thing. But if you're into it, like, let me go and get my strap from the back and I'll harness you on the bed. You just never know. You never know. All you can do is say, look, I'm so happy with you and I love what we've got, but is there a reason? Oh no, how would people advise? I watch loads of stuff like this. I think you have to do a positive thing first and say something like, I love when we do sleep together, but I find it really hot if somebody goes down on me. Is there a reason that you don't like it, or do you usually like it? And just keep it as an open conversation and don't go really, what's the word, like on the attack. I think if you keep it open and light, then there's more chance of him being honest with you. And he might DJ Khaled you and say, I don't go down on any woman. In which case you say, okay, thank you. You've taught me a wonderful lesson in my worth and what I deserve. And I will be leaving now and you will never see me again. Because that's exactly what I would do. I just don't think it's fair if a guy doesn't do that for you. It depends what his reason is. But you've got to get that out in the open. You've got to talk about it. Yeah, that's the way I would approach it. By the way, I've got to go off on a tangent here. Just watched a TikTok earlier today that said the bare minimum from a man is to open his car door for you. Or like you a car door, And I was like, I always thought I had relatively high standards, not super high, but like, I'm not going to be treated like shit by somebody repeatedly. But would I ever sit in my car, this is what I was picturing, right, being driven somewhere, sitting in my car and having my boyfriend get out of the front, and I'm sat there the whole time whilst I wait for him to come round and open the door for me to get out. I just thought that whole thing was ludicrous. And the girl on TikTok looked in the camera and was like, ladies, if your man isn't opening car doors for you, then he's not the one. And I was like, oh, come on now. I'm a time saver. Who's got the time and the patience to sit there and wait for the car door to be opened? Not me. And then I was like confused, and I was like, am I turning down basic needs? Like, is this the bare minimum? It's so confusing when you see something like that on the internet. That did remind me of the invisible string theory, though, which is basically the theory that the universe keeps two people apart until the timing is right for them to meet and be together. So there's loads of examples of it, like I went on a date with somebody and we found out that my mother used to do his sister's hair and he lived 2 doors down away from me. Or it'd be like, here's a picture. Oh God, I saw an amazing one actually the other day where they were in, I think it was Paris at the same time, and her boyfriend showed her a picture that his friend had taken from the balcony on holiday, and she was in the hotel room underneath. How amazing is that? So they were both on the holiday before they'd met, and then however many months, years later, they're together, and they realised that they stayed in the same place at the same time, but the universe wasn't ready for them to meet. So that's like what you've said then, that, like she said, didn't she, there were numerous occasions that they could have crossed paths, but they didn't. And she said if they did, for professional reasons, they couldn't have dated. So that's the whole thing of it, that they keep you in line. I also saw something the other day that said how weird it is sometimes when you break up with somebody and you never see them again, and that is because you're just not on the same path anymore when you're separate. And they were comments saying like, I only live down the road from my partner and I haven't seen him from my ex-partner and I haven't seen him in 2 years. And there's lots of theories about it saying that's just because you're never meant to cross paths again. So the people that you do cross paths with across your life, sometimes you come back together. Although I have got one ex which always seems to cross my path, meets a friend, bumps into somebody I know, like there's always there. And I don't believe we're meant to be together. So who knows what that theory is. Take that theory and make it what you wish. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave that with you. If you have got a thought on it though, or some experience, then obviously let us know. Also, my mother was up this weekend. She stayed and we had a nice weekend of plans. We went to see the Moulin Rouge, the musical. And oh my God, guys, I have to tell you, it was incredible. We loved it. So I got it for my mother for Christmas. And we'd seen the Moulin Rouge show in Paris. We went for my friend's 21st birthday. So that was a long time ago. Loved it. And then we saw the film. I saw the film for the first time in lockdown. Remember like the drive-through cinema phenomenon that happened in lockdown? I did that. Really enjoyed the film. But because those two experiences were so far apart, when I went to see the musical, I could barely remember the film, I'm not going to lie. And I just knew that I loved, obviously, the theme of it and stuff. So I didn't really know what to expect. Oh my God, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The decor of the theatre was stunning. I was like, I need a Moulin Rouge themed birthday. I want to come suspended from the ceiling in diamonds. I want to be, I can't bloody remember her name now. I want to say Sunita, and I know it's not Sunita because she's the woman from X Factor. Santine, that's it, Santine. Santine came down from the ceiling, dripping in diamonds, and I was like, that's the girl I want to be. Apart from the fact, spoiler, she passes away at the end, which is so sad. I even cried. Me and my mother were crying in theatre. People around us were crying. I've never had that experience in a theatre before. I think I found my niche with musicals because it didn't make me cringe at all. And they basically sing a load of hits throughout the musical, like all songs you know. And I just loved it. Absolutely loved it. That's another little recommendation for you this week. But my mother came up and she told me this story, and I hope it's not a sign of things to come, but she told me this story, right, of this woman had found out that her husband had been having an affair with her mother. Her mother. So her mother moved in with them. I think they were getting construction work done or something, so she lived in a basement, right? And then over the course of time, obviously they're together in the house, so they get close, and her mother found out that her husband the woman's husband, had cheated on her loads of times. So she was telling her daughter, look, he's done this, but please don't say I know. So for me, that's a red flag, because how do you know and I don't? Why is he somehow telling you, or you were in a position where you can find this out and I don't? That would be my first red flag. Anyway, the woman confronts her husband and says, like, I've heard you've cheated on me loads of times. My mother told me, blah, blah, blah. And like straight away forgot what her mother said, like, don't say I told you. told the husband straight away. And the husband said, well, has she told you what me and her have been doing? Imagine. There's so many levels of betrayal, but your mother, I just couldn't deal. It would, honestly, if anything was going to make me sick, no offense to my mother, but it would be that. I just couldn't deal with that. But yeah, it was a fun news story anyway, so there you go. But yeah, you should definitely go and see Moulin Rouge. Also had a really diverse cast, which I loved. I know that makes me sound very Gen Z and political, but it was nice. It was like a really good, great mix of people. And yeah, it was just lovely. I had a little wine. I had 3 glasses actually, and yeah, it was very, very good. Also, if ever you need an example of lucky girl syndrome, I know I've done an episode on this before where you basically have to say that I'm a lucky girl and everything works out for me. And I've actually been told this before on a date. I went on a date before and it was like rammed, and we were by the bar and he was like, oh God, we'll never get a seat here. And then I went to the back and it was like Moses parted the sea and seats appeared and all these things. And they didn't usually do margaritas, but he would make, like all these little things, which I wasn't thinking it. And he said to me, wow, you were really lucky. And I was like, do you know, I think I am. I think I've got lucky girl syndrome. Anyway, so I always find it really, what's the word? Inspiring, a bit dramatic. But when I hear these stories about how things just work out for you. And you know, I was even thinking, Harry on the Traitors for me, must have been manifesting winning that show. Because the way that Molly was going to vote him out, and she scratched out his name and changed it, I was like, 100% he believes he's going to win and that's why he's won. So it's a bit lucky girl syndrome. It's a bit manifesting, but we'll call it lucky girl syndrome. Anyway, to my point. So I went to Moulin Rouge, or I went to Paris for my friend's 21st birthday. So it was me, my best friend, her mother and my mother. 4 of us girls trip, super fun. So we went to see Moulin Rouge, and then from there, me and my friend were going to go out for the night clubbing, and obviously our mothers were going to go back to the hotel. And we're 21 at the time. I don't think, because we hadn't graduated. Yes, so it was my friend's 21st, so I'm 20 actually. She hadn't graduated, so she wasn't working, she was just a student. I was a student, but I was working either 8 or 16 hours a week. Definitely no more than 16 in a clothes shop, Monsoon, right? So we were poor. We were on the breadline, yet we were in Paris, dressed up in, do you remember Aqua / I think they changed the name to AQ dresses? Like, they were always really low cut. I had this dress on, it was down, I'm not lying, to my belly button, like my whole chest was out, and I did not care about it, I loved it. My friend was in one exactly the same low cut black, but not exactly the same, but like low cut, you know? So we're dressed up to the nines, but we have literally, I'm not lying, no money. Like, I didn't have money at that time. How I'm even in Paris and going to the Moulin Rouge, I don't know. Maybe my mother paid. I have no idea, right? Anyway, so we care. Actually, my friend's mother always used to say to us, it doesn't matter whether you've got £500 or £500 in your bag, nobody knows. And we used to think, yes, we used to adopt that mentality. Anyway, we get a taxi from Moulin Rouge to the club. And we mentioned this club to our hotel concierge. It's called VIP Paris. They've got one in Cannes, like they've got them everywhere. But we went to the Paris one, and the guy literally like wrote his name down on a card, and he said it's very difficult to get in, but maybe if you say you're staying at this hotel and we've got your name, and you know, just trying his luck with us, wherever. So anyway, we pull up to the club. There's a big line of people, right, and the taxi just drops us off right outside in front of the line. And the guy on the door of the club, right, I'm not lying, opens the taxi door, and me and my friend just hop out, and he just opens his rope, and we walked straight through. And my mother was like, they've gone. And my friend's mother was like, Amelia, you haven't even got any money. My friend had no money at all on her, and her mother had to come, be let in the rope, because we didn't even say bye. We like got out the taxi, and because he opened the rope, we were like, okay, see you, when we just went in wherever. And then my friend had no money, so my friend's mother ran in, was like, can I just give her the card? And so I had to go with cash forever. And then we walked through. As soon as we got there, a woman met us and put us on this guy's table who actually was an absolute dickhead, and he was the founder of Magnet Kitchens. He was steaming, he was tipping drinks and stuff. But anyway, and then we got moved and we were on table by ourselves. This isn't a brag or anything, but it's just saying that it was just reminded me of Moulin Rouge. Lucky girl syndrome. Like, if you've got that positive mindset that things are going to work out, things just will work out for you. And I think I'm saying this out loud because I've had a pretty rough week this week. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because there was a full moon, because TikTok's telling me that there was a full moon in Leo and is meant to be very transformative for me. But I have been quite down this week, and as I said, Ms. Anxiety reared her head. And yeah, when I was watching the Moulin Rouge and stuff, it's just funny how sometimes things happen and it makes you think of stuff in your past, innit? And I was thinking, I'm not a sad bitch, I'm a lucky bitch. And I'm just going to have to believe that everything's going to work out exactly how it's meant to. And therefore it will. So anyway, obviously I'm passing that on to you. Right. Sorry, I've been talking for ages. I've got another email, last message this week from you guys. And she said, hey Sadie, your pod is amazing. I've been binging it recently. I have a story for you that I wanted to share to see if you've ever come across something like this before. A couple of years ago, I went on a few dates with a guy. He was really nice and we got on well. On the third date, we made it into the bedroom, classic, where he revealed that he had a belly button fetish. Have you ever heard of this before? No, safe to say I have not. I was flabbergasted. I love this next part. I asked him how it worked. I mean, fair, because a belly button hole is not big enough for a penis, you should hope. Imagine he was like, it's my fetish because it's the only hole I can fill. Oh my God, that was really rude. Sorry. But yeah, how would it work? Well, I won't interrupt. Let's go for it. I asked him how it worked, and he said he liked looking at and touching innie belly buttons. Oh no, that makes my stomach turn. I cannot. Mine is a really deep innie, so he loved it. I was happy to go along with it. It felt very different having someone fiddling with your belly button during sex, but I have to say I kind of liked it. In the end, things fizzled out between us, nothing to do with belly buttons. I wondered if you'd ever experienced anything like this before. Well, no, I have not. I've never even heard of that before. And for me, the thought, I'm one of those people, I know belly buttons are quite weird for some people. I am a person, I cannot touch the inside of my belly button. Like, if somebody put their finger in it, it'd be like my stomach turning feeling. Know that feeling like when you go over a hill or a big bump in a car and your stomach comes up? It would be like that for me. So I could never handle it. But then also, I don't know how it feels. Because do you know what's really weird, right? This is a really weird thing. I can't believe I'm about to admit this. Hang on, do I want to? Oh, I'm going to have to now. Do I? I don't know. There's a really weird part on my forehead, which is very, very sensitive, yeah? That's it. I've never done anything with it, and I haven't told anybody whilst we're having sex, so that is it. But it feels very different to anywhere else on my head. It's just you. And it's like a very, very sensitive spot on my forehead. It's a really weird sensation. So maybe no, but he wouldn't get that. No, so maybe when you said you liked it, maybe that same feeling is inside the belly button. I wouldn't know because I just can't get my finger in there at all. And I'm not going to try. But, wow. Well, maybe this is one for the previous problem. Be like, I know you haven't tried me with fingers down below, but how about the belly button? Who knows? That is the thing, though, going back to that first story. Maybe he's got... maybe he's got some sort of fetish, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but maybe he's into something that he doesn't want to tell you about. So I do think it is good to have these conversations, because you never know where it might lead to, and you could end up having the best sex ever. Like this girl said, I was never into it, never heard about his shock, but then she ended up quite liking it. So I think you need to go and ask the next guy now. Be like, hey, do you know what? I've had this done to me before and it actually felt nice. Do you want to give it a go? And it might just be one of those things, guys. Maybe majority of us are missing out. Or maybe the majority are secret belly button fetishizers. Now I'm going to try and say the word. And maybe I'm the one that's missing out. Who knows? Guys, obviously, you know we love fetish messages. So if you've got anything similar with a belly button, or another fetish, obviously. But, yeah, let us know. No, I've never heard that. But I do love that he was like, third date, he was getting in there. First time you're sleeping with somebody, he's like, I can't possibly do it unless I see that innie belly button. But what would happen if you had an outie? I think that's the issue. Some people do have deep innies, don't they? My innie isn't that deep, I don't think. Wow, I really never thought I'd be thinking about my belly button depth on this week's episode. But, you know, that's why I love it. Wow, very interesting. Okay then, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. If you've got a story, quite clearly anything you want to share, then please do. The email is sadie@lovehotluck.com. All the links are in the show notes. Please, please, please remember to follow and subscribe and leave me a review. And if you like a reel, to share it, comment, etc., etc. Really, really trying to get the podcast out now this year. And yeah, thank you so much for listening and watching, and for sending your messages and sharing all your stories with me. Basically, I do really, really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you so much, and I'll speak to you next week in February. Exciting or scary, depending on how your anxiety is this week. Okay, thanks guys, bye.